All set. Can you guys hear me all right? Give me a thumbs up, maybe a pew pew pew. Okay, here we go. My name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Steve, thank you for the intro, and thank you to Summer for inviting me here. It's an honor and privilege, and a lot of people who showed up to support me. Of course, I see Babe there. Damn it, Babe. Why I gotta come, man? I'm trying to like say the same old stuff, and then he comes, I gotta talk about something new. Uh, I have a home group. Home group is Outright Mental Defectives. We meet Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's a speaker meeting, 50 minutes leads, followed by 20 minutes of Q&A. Have wonderful speakers coming up. We got Peter M. from Florida coming next week. I also got David G. and David G. And how can you tell the difference between the two? One has hair, one does not. They're awesome as well. I also have a sobriety date. Sobriety date's June 1st, 2019, and a miracle happened on that day where the gift of desperation screamed louder than the craving that was beyond my mental control. I didn't quit getting high. I was separated from getting high. I was sitting in this very same seat as we speak when I was separated. I was drinking and I was using when I was separated. I remember this little intuitive voice deep down within. It usually sounds like a whisper to nowadays, but at that moment, it screamed and it said you were done. And I made it to detox without detoxing. I stayed sober for 3 days. You know about the shakes? You know about the trembling, the madness, the morning terror? None of that. None of that. Obviously, the mind kicked in about 5 days later when I was in treatment. But it was a miracle that happened. I believe in miracles because I am one. You're looking at a miraculous demonstration of the power of God in one's life. And I was separated. Um, yeah, I mean, I saw Paige made the flyer, and you have so many wonderful speakers here and big book studies here, and I am a big fan of Big Book Companion. Summer's also a really good friend of mine. It was funny, the last time I received a fifth step, actually the second to last time, I actually did one the other day, was in Toronto. I spoke at a convention, at a CA convention up there. And after I did my talk, and this kid came up to me, and I was talking about 8 grand, the wind stopped blowing, and the kid came up to me and said, "Hey, I got a year sober. I'm going through the book with my sponsor for about a year, and I'm still on step one, and I feel like killing myself." That's what he told to me. And I looked right at him, and I've taken people through the steps in so many different ways. My experience is that whatever God directs me to do in that moment, I do. And this what came out of my mouth, and it was not me intellectualizing this. Is what I said. I asked him, whenever you drink, can you control the amount you take? And he said, no. And I said, when you're sober, can you stay sober? He said, no. And I said, congratulations, you just completed step one. Pew, pew, pew. I did the pews out of right. And then I asked him, hey, man, do you believe that there's a power greater than yourself, or even are you even willing to believe that there's a power greater than yourself? And he said yes and yes to both. And I said, congratulations, just completed step two. Pew, 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 pew. All right. And then we did the third step prayer. And I told him after the third step that your third step prayer doesn't mean jack unless you put some legs on step three and you go write some inventory. And we separated. And for about an hour later, I went back to use the bathroom because I was talking to people. And there's people, it was like 250 people in this like the auditorium, whatever you want to call it, and they're playing pool, they're talking. And guess who's in the corner writing inventory? That kid. And I go up to him and he just finished his list. And I go over, I give him instructions on columns two and three. We met the next day. I gave him instructions on column four. I gave him instructions on the fear inventory and then on the sex inventory. And then we met later on that day. And we did his fifth step for 3.5 hours. I missed the banquet. I also missed the main speaker share to listen to a fifth step. And this is the type of stuff that I love. They call it God dope, right? This is where the good stuff is at. And it's funny when you're working with another man or with another woman, it's not a duet, it's a trio. Me, that other person, and God. And God is just dancing between the raindrops when we do this work. And I remember I was with another person I work with. He's here, and he was with us because our book does say to do our fifth step with person or persons, meaning multiple people. And I could get into that later. And it was funny at part of my fifth step. My first time going through it, I tried hiding my sex conduct inventory from my sponsor. I thought he wouldn't notice. I'm already 2.5 hours deep, and I'm like, I get it. I don't like this. I'm a POS. I'm the problem, blah, 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 blah. And I tried hiding that last 2 pages. And he's like, Terry, you missing something? Are you missing something? Our fifth step talks about the intent of our fifth step. And I'll grab the book. I was told that to use the book. Why not? I'll grab the book. Our fifth step says on page 72, it says, we have been trying to get a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator and to discover the obstacles in our path. What is the definition of new? Something I've never experienced before. And I had to disclose that information to my sponsor in order to have this vital spiritual experience. And I was placed in some type of neutrality in that moment. I remember walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe and all that stuff. And I'm listening to this fifth step in Toronto, and we're about 2 hours deep, same time that I was, and he tried hiding a page from me. And I was like, whoa, 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 bro. What's that page about? And it was all chalked up. It looked beat up. It looked like the page got its butt kicked, right? Looked like it got its anger put on that page. And he's like, oh, that's nothing. I'm like, that ain't nothing. You wrote that down. And he started to explain that he was angry at the city of Toronto and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into the details of it. But after that, I saw that the light illuminated in this guy. When you work with a new man or a new woman, in the fifth step, sometimes we're talking to the disease of alcoholism. Am I aware of that? Am I aware that the alcoholic ego is fighting for its life? And I was aware of it because of my experience when I tried hiding it. And thank God for people who are armed with the facts, who took the steps, right? Who conduits and messengers of God, who posted me up on my BS. They talk about love and tolerance is our code. Being love and tolerance does not mean I'm going to be, super happy and chipper with you. And sometimes it's you telling me things I really don't want to hear that will save my life. It will hurt my feelings, but will save my life. I recommend every single person in this room to get 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 100 people who are in a recovered state. What does that mean? The recovered state means I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. They no longer suffer from the obsession, and they no longer drink because of the allergy. It's funny, the big book will define a word for you if you allow it to define a word for you, right? And that's what it meant, right? And you get people who are in a recovered state, who are conduits, who are messengers, who are angels on the ground, who you have given consent to, no matter how pissy they'll make you or how angry they'll make you, you will give them consent to tell you what it is. In our 10th step, it even says we discuss this with another person at once. That's a time frame. That means immediately, right here, right now. And discuss is probably the least favorite thing I like to do. In my experience with discussing, I think I came into the rooms and I started to share and I felt better. It was kind of weird, right? You guys ever share and you're like, oh, I feel good. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I was probably just BS. Sorry, I was about to curse, but I held myself. Yeah, it was probably crap that was coming out of my mouth, but I felt better, you know? And this was a way of life that I had no idea that I started when I came into the rooms. You know, meetings are not supposed to be for people to pour their bullshit on. Oh, I curse. Sorry. Whoopsie. My bad. All right. It's for me to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, not carry my problems, right? But for people who are new, don't stop them from talking. I had someone, this just popped into my mind. His name is Carlos. I think I was like 2 days sober or something like that. And he came to me, he's like, hey, I started this meeting. It's a wonderful meeting. You should come. Newcomers can't talk for the first 90 days, so you got to shut up. You know where Carlos is? He's 6 feet under. He's dead. Our big book is specific about finding out everything there is about the newcomer, what their belief systems are, what their attitudes are, what their religious leanings are, what their family life is, relationship, everything. Why do I need that information? So I need that information. So if I was in his shoes, how would I like to be approached as well? It talks about the word approach 32 plus times in our big book, right? We're supposed to make the approach to these people. So if I'm telling a newcomer to shut up, regardless of how much crap is that's coming out of their mouth, oh, if someone can mute, that'd be great. Let's find out who the culprit is. Greg, oh, muted. Well, it's good to see you, Greg. I haven't seen you in a while. Forgot where I was. I was talking about crap. Oh yeah, crap. Let's just make this talk about crap. So how much stuff that's coming out of someone who's new, and yeah, they don't know what's going on. You know, we need to know this information so that we make the approach on them. You know, I don't give my phone number out to people. I get their numbers. You know, and I remember going through the process of recovery, and it says the intent of step 5 is to get a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator. I kind of like how they threw that in there, right? You know, my higher power was a doorknob at one point, right? You know, and one your higher power could be a doorknob. That's if you were created by a doorknob, right? No, I'm just kidding. Read the poem by Sam Shoemaker's "Stand by the Door." You understand why the doorknob is significance, right? You can believe in whatever there is that it ain't you, and then one day that doorknob is gonna fail. You make it the door. And then one day that door is gonna fail, you make it the house. And then one day that house is gonna fail, you make it the city. And then one day that city is gonna fail, you make it the world. And then so on and so forth, the universe. Right? Make your God bigger. And that's what I did when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I just did not believe in me because of my butt kicking in step 1. I mean, I drank myself into alcoholic insanity. I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, straight up. I was willing to believe in whatever because I didn't trust me anymore. And I'm given this third step decision in our book. And the third step is just a decision. You guys ever hear about the 3 red-tailed hawks on a fence? You guys ever hear that? I know Babe, you've heard it. I know Babe's heard it. Anyone else hear the 3 red-tailed hawks on a fence? Good, because I just made it up 2 months ago. So I hope you don't know it. So you got 3 red-tailed hawks on a fence, Steve. Check this out. 3 red-tailed hawks on a fence. 2 make a decision to launch out into the sky. How many red-tailed hawks launched out into the sky? 0, because they all made a decision, but they never made a commitment to that decision. And our commitment to that decision is writing inventory in step 4. Our commitment to that decision is telling someone our 5th step for every dark cranny of the past, every nook and all that stuff, right? Our 3rd step decision is also a commitment to 6 and 7. It's also a commitment to 8 and 9. It's also a commitment to 10 and 11, and also a major commitment to 12. The 3rd step is the keystone of the triumphant arch to which we will pass to free men. It is the arch that will weigh down the steps. are way down the arch, right? Step three is interlocked into everything. When I make a conscious decision to stop doing the work, you know what I've done? I made a conscious decision that I am the Alpha, that I am the Omega, that I am the beginning and all, that I am the principal, I am the director, I am the actor, and I am God. That's the deal. You would have stadiums filled with us. I mean, it's much easier to get an alcoholic or an addict to quit drinking and using than to get them to quit playing God. Straight up, straight up. And it's not easy for me to quit playing God because I don't see it. There's a meaning in my head, a narrative in the head, and a story in my head. It even says being convinced that self manifests in various ways with defeated us. Self and us are two different things. Us is my 2-year-old son. He's not thinking the drive for success is on. I have arrived. How dark it is for the dawn. Curse myself for being with. Faith has to work 24 hours in it. There is a. No, he's not thinking any of that stuff. He has a constant connection with a power greater than himself. That's what we're doing, everybody. We're going back home. We're going back home to the land of milk and honey, back to the fourth dimension, back to the spirit of the universe, back to right here, right now, living from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment basis. And then there's self, the meaning in my head, the narrative in my head, the story in my head. Man, I thought I was identifying with speakers. No, I was identifying with the condition that was driving you. I need money to live. I need a girlfriend to be okay. I need a job to be all right. Or I love when people say they're in rehab. I need a job. I need a job. Then you just lost everything worthwhile in life. You're in rehab. Like, relax on the job thing. Let's focus on getting well first. Then check this out. If you chase recovery, newcomer, material things will start to chase you. Let's say that one more time. If you chase recovery and you stick to that third step decision and stick with that commitment to do the rest of the work, material things will work for you. It even says on page 100, you know what? I got my book. Why not? Why not? It says, both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. Sounds like my third step promise coming to fruition. When we look back at life, right, we live forward, we understand it backwards. We realize that the things that came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands, and I know Paige does a great talk on that, God's hands were better than anything that we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world no matter what your present circumstances are. Man, I could be a homeless bum, but I'll be the happiest homeless bum in the world because I get rid of all the things that are blocking me. That's the intent of step 4, to face and to be rid of the things that are blocking me and to get rid of them. Not to face and look at it, not to face it and play with it, not to face it and hang out with it. Face it and be rid of it. And that's what I'm doing in the 5th step. I'm making an admission. You know, the 1930s definition of admit means to let in. You know, it even says in our 1st step, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and our lives would become unmanageable. The word admit means to let in. I'm letting into my soul, into my gut, that I'm an alcoholic and that I'm a drug addict. I'm letting it into my soul, another person, another human being. Like Dave says, ripping the mask off, right, babe? And being honest with one knucklehead in this world, right? And I'm ripping the face off to my true, authentic self, my 2-year-old kid, right? And then ripping the face off to God. It actually gives us a definition of the 4th dimension. It's actually, hey, look at that. My kid ripped it up. This is my crappy book. It says, big book that's falling apart. That means that you're not, Yes, that's true. But in my experience, if my book is so towed up with information, highlights, and definitions, and all that, I don't have a new experience with the literature when I go through it. I mean, I was just reading with a new guy about an hour ago with the 3rd step. Had no notes in it. And God was working in and through me, just like he's doing right now. I didn't have a script. There's no script here. I don't have any notes on this little napkin to talk about. This is all coming from God. I'm just a conduit. I'm just a messenger of God. I'm just here to play the role that God assigns to me. And hopefully someone here is listening to it. And the definition of the fourth dimension is on page 8 and on page 25. It says, we've had deep and effective spiritual experiences that revolutionize our whole attitude towards life. That's my mind, towards my fellows, that's physical, and towards God's universe, right? Mind, body, spirit, they're all interlocked together, just like our circle and triangle, all interlocked together. I like doing that, by the way, babe. All interlocked together. And as a result of that, is our creator has entered into our lives and lives in a way of life, a design for living, a level of life, which is indeed miraculous. Page 8, I was to know happiness. That's my mind. I was to know peace. That's spirit. I was to know usefulness. That's physical. Mind, body, spirit, all interlocked together. And a result of that, the fourth dimension, which is a way of life, living from moment to moment to moment to moment. Actually, even says in the fifth step, I made it to God, spirit, to another person, physical, and towards myself. All right, well, yeah, those three: mind, body, spirit. That's what's happening in the fourth step. We're starting to. I'm sorry, the fifth step. We're starting to live right here, right now. That's why it even says we've had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. We start to have a personality change that is sufficient to recover from alcoholism. We start to have this intuitive sense, this God sense, this little inner monologue that's deep down within me that says to stop fully at a stop sign instead of blowing right through it. Right? I'm starting to listen to that intuition that's deep down with every man, woman, and child in this room. Where's the best place for God to hide from an alcoholic? Inside an alcoholic's heart. We ain't gonna look there. We ain't gonna look there, but he's there. This is a program of subtraction, not addition. That's why we write inventory to find out who we are not, and we get rid of that cat, and our true authentic self will come out to play. That's what's happening in this process. And I'll go back to the book because I was advised to go back to the book. It says, this is the first paragraph. I'll have to just rip this page. Screw it. Bye-bye, page. All right. Now, these are about to be cast out. These are all the things that are blocking me from the power. What a promise that is. Think about that. Say I write an inventory. All my writing inventory, if you're new here, is telling your life story, and there's three parts to it, which is your resentments, your fears, and your conduct in relationships. And if say I write an inventory and I go to a psychiatrist, that psychiatrist would probably put me on meds, right? Like, who's this crazy cat? What this is, it talks about divinity here. These are about to be cast out, not by me, not by another person, but by God. All right? On the bottom of the page, it says there, last paragraph, there is no doubt about it. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Anyone was alive in the 90s? Raise your hand. Yeah. Guys, ever look at they were like a little picture that was blurry, and then you cross your eyes and they become clear. Right? That's what's happening when I write an inventory. I'm looking at it, but I'm like, it's cross-eyed. I could see a little bit. I could swallow and digest some big truths about myself, but I'm not seeing the whole picture. I'm not seeing the clarity of the picture. That's why I need someone who's in a recovered state to talk to, right? And it says on the bottom that for the best reason for blah, 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 if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. So if anyone is here thinking that they don't need to do a fifth step, you may drink again, right? Paige, what's up? Pew, pew, pew. That's our girl right there, right? Paige, what's the definition of insanity? Being part of a 12-step fellowship and not doing the 12 steps. What you doing here? You're just hanging out in the club? You know, I go to meetings and I'll bitch and moan. Oh, I cursed again. Sorry. And I would go to meetings and complain and complain. That's like me going to the bar and complaining. All right, all right. Do the work, everybody, and God will work on you. There's some people out there that don't need to do this work, and I'll explain. There's some people that don't need to write a thorough four step. There's some people that could leave something out in the fifth step and they're okay. There's some people that don't have to make all their amends, like every single one of them, right? And they're still happy, they're still sober. There's some people that just do two-step it. They do step one, they do step 12. They're fine. They're good, they're still sober. Maybe they're saying 8 grand to win stop point, but who knows? There's some people that could don't drink and go to meetings. These could be real alcoholics or real addicts, everybody. But why not me? Page 34 explains that. It says whether a person could quit on a non-spiritual basis depends on the extent. Underline and highlight that word extent if you have your big book. I hope you brought it to class, by the way. Extent to which I've lost the power to choose whether I will drink or not. Extent. How far did you go? How far did you go? I went to the gates of insanity. There's two options for me in this step. Is to either do the work or drink again. Do the work or get high again. It will tell me that's the best reason. If I don't do this, I may not overcome drinking. I'll go to the next page. Go to page 74. Oh, here, no, I'm sorry. Go to 73, last sentence. I don't know. I'm just picking sentences. Just go with it. We must be entirely honest with somebody. Entirely, I don't know that page. What's the definition of entirely? If you could put that in the chat, that'd be great. Entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. That's a question for me. Do I want to live long and do I want to live happily in this world? You you could be dishonest with every single person in your life. But if you're entirely honest with just one person, man, you just throw it all out there. Man, you tell your sponsor, I started doing this last time I started going to the work 2 years ago. Tell someone your deepest, darkest secret that you will go to the grave with. You just let everything out there. You're going to get results. My experience, which is coming from the next page, next sentence, is rightly and naturally we think well before we choose the person or persons, multiple people, with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. What happens is when I start to discuss with multiple people the deepest, darkest secrets that I got, what happens is I get freer. I could start to hold my head higher. It actually says in our promise, we could look the world in the eye. I did a fifth step with my sponsees. And this is one of my sponsees got the longest time. And after the fifth, he's like, damn, dude, I had no idea how effed up we were. Because people look at me like, oh, Mr. AA, Mr. Spiritual Man, Mr. Convention Speaker. Crap. That doesn't mean anything. I'm a human being. I'm an equal. I'm not less than, I'm not more than. We are equals here. All right. But when I lay it out there on the line with people that I don't usually talk with about, I get fear wherever I go. And I can't really explain. It's an experiential thing, right? It's uh, like what does a rose smells like? It smells like a rose, right? What does a tulip smell like? Smell like tulips. I can't explain it. It's only experience, right? So here are some things about who should receive the fifth step, right? And it says, the next paragraph, it says, if we cannot or would rather do this with, I'm sorry, you could go to a properly appointed authority, you could go to a religion, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't want to do that, you could search out an acquaintance for a closed mouth understanding friend, right? So someone who's going to shut their mouth. My friend Babe says this all the time. He's like, I don't have any secrets, but I have secrets from other people, right? You know, I don't share them with anyone, right? These are coming with me. But also, here's another one that says, I will tell someone, yet be unaffected. I will understand, yet be unaffected. What about you're on the fourth step? What's up with that? What happens if you put your own sponsor in the fifth step and you're giving the fifth step to your sponsor? You might leave something out. I recommend to do that with someone else then, right? Yet be unaffected, right? And they'll keep it in confidence, right? They won't tell anyone. So next page, when we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. Meaning, when you're done writing your inventory and you've made a decision on who's going to listen to it, don't balk on it. Go tell someone your story, right? And it says we made an inventory. We're prepared for a long talk. A long talk. It could be a long time. The longest I've done was 8 hours straight. All right. Be prepared for a long talk and tell someone who is new. You know, in our 12 step, it talks about from page 89, bottom of page 89 to 96, the first visit. All the first visit with a newcomer. Explain this to them. Be transparent with them. Don't let them find out all this stuff later on. This is the program of recovery. This is the spiritual toolkit. I'm going to lay it at your feet. It's your job to pick it up and use the tools. All right? I can lead a horse to the water, but I can't make them drink it. I tell people I'm not the power. My job is to help connect you to the power. That's it. And I let them know they are engaged in a life or death errand. Am I convinced that this is a life or death errand? Shit. What happens if it's Super Bowl Sunday? Super Bowl Sunday is coming up. You guys like football, right? Maybe. I do. My damn Jets aren't in there, baby. Your Bills aren't in there either, by the way. Just kidding. What happens if our teams are in the Super Bowl? But I got a new guy asking me to do they've done their inventory. They're fighting for their life, just like I was fighting for my life. They're fighting for their life. And Super Bowl Sunday is in 2 days, and that's the only day they have free. What are you going to say? Hell yeah, I'm going to help them. I could watch the rewind it, or I forgot what it was called, TiVo and stuff like that, the Super Bowl. I could watch it on NFL Demand. I don't mind. But my mind will tell me something else. Oh, I'm busy that day, bro. No, they're fighting for their life. And I hope that if you're a sponsor, realize that you have to understand that they're fighting for their life just like you did. Who gave a crap about which day something was happening, right? I didn't care. I didn't even know which president we had when I came in. I didn't even know who was running the country when I came in here. I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind. Guys are gonna have to go drive to the front to go pick up my son, and he's getting off the bus at 2:50. So I'm still here. Don't get don't get scared. Don't run off. I'm just in my parking spot. So now I'm prepared for a long talk too, everybody. I'm ready to receive this. And I sit down with this individual and we say a prayer. I like to do it all in one shot. I don't like to break it up. I think that if you break up a fifth step, it kind of loses its juice. That's just my experience. I've done it before. I made that mistake. I try and if I'm going to do a fifth step, I'm going to do it in one shot. And I'm prepared for that long talk. And I'm prepared to show them how I was showed, how I played God, how I was being selfish and self-centered, thinking about myself, where I look at my belief systems, I see my old ideas, I see how I ran the show, how I was angry at every single person. You know what was the most transformative, I can't even say that word, transformative, there it is. Can't talk today. Transformative thing that I ever done was from working from column 3 to column 4 in our inventory. That was probably the most everything. I mean, looking at columns 1 and 2 and 3 I mean, we look at the world and its people, they're quite wrong. People are assholes. I cursed again, sorry. Right? They're quite wrong, period. But it's not the event that I'm looking at, it's what I've done with the event moving forward, right? And I'm asked to look at it. Perhaps these people are spiritually sick, like me too. And that was revolutionary. I never looked at, I mean, that's what therapists do. They look at your columns 1, 2, and 3. They don't look at 4. And I remember I was talking to my sponsor, and I couldn't get into the into the 4th column because I was so hung up on what their problem was. And I remember my sponsor, I mean, he basically Baby Yodaed me, man. He kicked my butt. He ninja'd me, you know? And I was angry at my wife, she stole 50K from me. She hit me, physically hit me, right? What else was angry at her? I was angry at her for a lot of stuff. I forgot. I remember those 2. Stole 50K and hit me, right? And my sponsor looked right back at me. He's like, "Terry, say this prayer that's on page 60." Grab my book. Grab my book. On page 67. It says, "We ask God to help show my wife the same tolerance, pity, and patience that I would cheerfully," that word just popped at me, "cheerfully grant the sick friend. When my wife offended, I said to myself, this is a sick woman. How can I be helpful to her? God save me." Doesn't say save them, it says save me from being angry. Thy will be done. I like to say thy will is being done because then I'm doing it right here, right now. Thy will be done. And my sponsor asked me, "Terry, you ever stole money from your wife?" And I said, "Yes, I have." Well, then, Terry, like ourselves, they are sick too. The same pain that was driving your wife was driving you too. You know, have you not only stolen from your wife in the future? I'm sorry, not in the future, but other past events? Yes, I have. So you're angry at your wife for the same behavior that you've done to her, right? All right. Or here's a good one. Here's a good one. My wife hit me, right? She physically hit me. Right. Well, Terry, let's look at it through a entirely different angle. Have you ever hit your wife? No, I'm a gentleman. I would never do that, right, babe? I'm a gentleman. I would never hit a woman ever, ever. I can't even see you with the glare. I can't ever. Okay, Terry, let's look at this through an entirely different angle. Have you ever been tempted? Keyword tempted. Tempted to hit your wife. F yeah. I feel like kicking her ass, right? Well then, Terry, like ourselves, they are sick too. The same pain that drives your wife drives you too. This is where I go from victim, the great I, the great MY, the great for me, to forgiveness. This is where I go from flawed thinking to God thinking, right? And it's funny, just recently got this from the core room. One of their speakers was talking about this. And he asked something horrific. They were the victim, the person who wrote. But remember, it's not looking at the event, it's what I've done with the event moving forward. And I've been using this lately with especially with people who are abused, which is not it's prevalent. It's out there. You're not terminally unique if you think you're the only one. There's a lot of people who suffer from the same thing. And I would use this from which I got from the core room, and I asked the person, I said, "Hey, when it comes to alcohol, do you suffer from an obsession that's beyond your mental control?" And they're like, "Yeah, I can't stay stopped in my own power." I'm like, "Okay, let's look at it through a entirely different angle. You think that that person suffers from an obsession that's beyond his mental control when it comes to abuse?" He said, "Yeah, maybe." And I said, "Then like ourselves, they are sick too, you know?" This is where I start to change. The transformation starts to happen. I start to say this prayer as a way of life. And all of a sudden, when you take a drink, the drink takes you, you become the drink. You start to say this prayer, you start to become this prayer. And then you start to be this prayer. It starts to take all these prayers in the big book and be a demonstration of these words and these prayers in the big book. I mean, I could read this book all day about it's just a novel to me. If I read it, I have to be a demonstration of the words that are in it. I got a few minutes left. And I'll just keep talking until my kid shows up, I guess. And you guys can meet my kid. I want the fifth step promises. If you're new here and you've never done a fifth, fourth step, why be scared of it? Look at these promises on page 75. Really, look at these promises on 75. We are delighted. I don't think I've ever was delighted after a fist. I'm more like I got my butt kicked. What happens in our fifth step, third step promise says we are reborn, meaning something's got to die. That means the alcoholic ego is fighting for its life. It's fighting during this process, right? So what happens is the death to self happens, and my true authentic self will come out to play inside and intuitive. I'm lit up inside, right? And it says I can look the world in the eye. I was talking about that earlier. We could be alone at perfect peace and ease, man. My mind wouldn't shut the F up in the first 90 days of recovery. Wouldn't shut the F up. I remember sitting on my couch with no TV on, not looking at my phone, and I was at perfect peace and ease. Like, you can't put a price tag on that. I mean, this is stuff that I carry with me. I mean, shit. I mean, imagine going through the storm of life and you have a peace of mind. You can't put a price tag on that. I mean, if Babe came up to me and told me, Terry, stop doing AA, stop believing in God, don't do the 12 steps, I'll give you $1 billion. You know what I say to Babe? Go F yourself. You can't pay me to get out of this. No later vicissitude has shaken my faith. No later vicissitude has shaken my faith. I said it earlier, I believe in miracles because I believe that there's a power out there, right? It says, we begin to feel the nearness of our creator. That's, I feel, we got all this stuff blocking. We're walking around with this nuclear waste. Just carrying it around. It's around our heart, around our soul. It's on our backs, in our mind, whatever, toe to toe, right? What happens, we strip all that, and I start to feel the nearness of my creator within me. I feel the presence of God. Right? It even says in Bill's story, right page are sneaky descriptions of the spiritual experience, right? We're gonna quote page all day, right? It says it was utter confidence. That's what he says. It's not me being cocky. I mean, if I'm in the presence of God, I am supposed to feel confident, right? Like a great clean wind blew through and through. It's like going from a hot room to a cold room, right? It says we've had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. That feeling of the drink problem has disappeared. I started doing this about 3 years ago. I started asking people uh, when I go over the instructions afterwards to do their 6 and 7. I said, "Are you thinking about drinking right now?" Every single one of them has said no. I was riding that fifth step high for about 2 months. If you guys invite me back for step 9, then I could talk about I can talk about step 9. I had the obsession relieved. I did the work, God worked on me, the obsession was gone. I was placed in a position of neutrality after this. I was riding that fifth step high, but the problem with the spiritual experience, it has an expiration date. I'm gonna say that one more time. A spiritual experience has an expiration date. I have to grow and maintain this spiritual experience through work and self-sacrifice for other people. All right, David G, what's up, bro? That's David G with no hair. I think that's all, man. Love you, bro. What did I say? Our fears. Where did I? Where did I miss the fear thing? Where'd it go? We feel. Oh, I lost the fears. Oh, it was up. Our fears fall from us. I felt that. I looked at my fears in my inventory. So the fascinating thing about fear is we're really talking about mental anxiety. You know, what real fear is, I'm driving, I see a truck coming at me, I jump out the way. That's fear. Right? When we're talking about the book, it's talking about mental anxiety. We're talking about our agnosticism. I mean, I believe there's a God, but it won't work for me, so this is what I'm gonna do. And I'm a scared little child deep down within me. That's why we look at our fears. Where we pull the fear, I'm sorry, is that my kid there? If we pull resentment back, we find fear. Hold on, guys. Uh, hey, I guess that's not the bus. Oh, the bus is over there. Whoopsie. All right, kid. Let's finish up this fear stuff. Forgot what I was gonna say. All right, screw it. Oh yeah, you pull back resentment, you find fear. You pull back fear, you find self-reliance. I, me, my. I, me, my. Let me give you an idea what that means. I don't feel like going to a meeting. Screw that. All right, here's my kid. All right, guys. My name is Terry. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I love each and every one of you. And last but not least, pew, 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 pew.